Hello and welcome back to the US Cyber Games Fireside Chat. I'm joined today by Chris Haller, the Red versus Blue coach on the US Cyber Team. He'll be here to chat a little bit about CTFs, what the world of cybersecurity looks like, and a bit more. But without further ado, let's let him introduce himself and we can get right into it.
Great. So yeah, my name is Chris Haller. I am the Red versus Blue coach and the attack defense coach for the US Cyber Team. And I've been in IT and cyber for about 12, 13 years. I did 8 years active duty with the Navy. Four of those, I was with the Navy Cyber Defense Operations Command. And what I did was incident management for any classified or unclassified computer incident on Navy networks globally. Um, it was, a lot of fun, really challenging, learned a lot, and I'm also glad I'm not doing it anymore because it was very stressful. Um, but it was a good time, and that was really where I got my first taste of cyber. Absolutely loved it. So I did a little bit of time in cyber threat intel, and now I've been doing pen testing full time for about 3 years, which has been very rewarding. Um, Specifically because, I spent so long in the incident response blue team side that I kept seeing the same things happen over and over. So being able to do it from the offensive side, the pen testing side, we can proactively find and classify and help reduce that risk before a threat actor actually does that, which has been very personally and professionally rewarding.
So I guess bouncing off that a little bit, a bit of the concept of no evil, do good, or vice versa, do good, no good, see evil sort of deal. So I guess bouncing into some of the generic intro questions, we'll start with where are you from?
Yeah. So right now I live in New Hampshire. It's been a lot of fun. Been here for about almost 5 years at this point, 4.5 years. Moved here after active duty with the Navy, and it's been great. We got here just before COVID too, before things really got all wacky. So it's been fun. But my wife and I are both from the Maine area, and spent 8 years bouncing around the country for the Navy. So I'm happy to be back in New England.
Nice, nice. And then what's your educational background getting into cybersecurity?
Yeah. I have a master's in cybersecurity policy and management from University of Maryland Global Campus. And I also did my bachelor's in computer networks and security through UMGC as well. I finished my bachelor's when I was on active duty, and I started my master's while I was still active duty. I finished my master's in 2020, I think June of 2020, and I recently graduated with a graduate certificate in penetration testing and ethical hacking from the SANS Technology Institute. And I'm currently enrolled in the ICS security grad cert at SANS Technology Institute as well.
Dang, quite the suite of certificates and what have you.
I've got way too many certificates. Yeah, but the one I'm the most proud of is my GSE for the GX Security Expert.
Could you go into that a little bit? Actually, I'm curious.
Sure. Yeah. So that one, you have to have a certain amount of GX certs before you can even attempt that. And they just changed it out too. So it's, I think, four different all hands on exams where you're given, they're pretty generic questions, or the questions are not very detailed. And they're all VM based ones too. So you have to actually do hands on stuff to understand, okay, what are they actually asking in the question? How does that translate to something technical I need to do? And then, can I actually do the technical work and then provide that information to answer the question? And it was very difficult, really, really hard. And, I'm really glad I did it because it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot just from taking the exams themselves. But GSE is really a culmination of a lot of different lines of effort through other certifications and training. And right now, I believe there's still less than 500 of them in the world.
Good grief! So a bit of an exclusive club. That's kind of cool, though.
Yep.
I know you've already kind of touched on it, but where all have you worked so far in the world of cybersecurity?
Yeah. So, I started help desk and sysadmin. and that was really where I cut my teeth on computers, at least. So when I joined the Navy, I joined as an IT, and I went to a school. What we did was about 6 months of just learning. Here's how a computer works. Here's how computer networks go. We got our A plus, and I think MCP for Windows XP. So yeah, this was back in 2012 is when I went through there. And then beyond that, I did a lot of self studying for CCNA, Net Plus, Sec Plus, all of those certs, and it was a lot of just really learning and trying to front load as many things as I could. Um, so I did 4 years as that help desk sysadmin role. Deployed once doing that role, learned a ton from it. Really got a lot of exposure and how those things worked, how they're supposed to work together. And then I transferred to NCDoc, and that's where I got that cyber perspective. And I thought for sure I was going to be a sysadmin when for my career until I started doing cyber, and I was like, this cyber stuff is way more fun. I'm definitely going to be doing this instead. And so really got dialed in on learning what that was, how to do that. I did my first SANS course, and that just blew everything else open. Loved that, and that was also where I started doing CTFs too, and I learned what a CTF was, and having a chance to really do all that technical work to show hey, here's how I can actually solve these problems was really exciting, really super exciting, and I've been doing CTFs ever since.
Nice. I guess a follow up on that, if you don't mind, a bit of a curveball into the mix is that would you say most people should or should not start in like cybersecurity, right? Like you said, you cut your teeth in sysad and that sort of deal. So should people kind of, with having cybersecurity in mind, start in IT or something along those lines and pivot, or would you say it's viable to just get into cybersecurity?
Personally, I think it's very difficult to go directly into cyber unless you are very good at what you do and have a lot of other kind of additional experience to bring along with it. Personally, I view entry level cyber as a mid level overall role because it does rely on so many other factors and having such a strong foundation in how computer networks work, how users operate, how this risk is viewed. Um, because if you don't have a solid understanding of you know why computer networks are designed one way, when you try to present your findings or try to talk about risk, you're going to leave a lot of gaps in your analysis and what can actually be achievable or what is actually applicable to an organization through their context as well. So it's really important to keep in mind that entry level cyber is kind of that middle level career position overall.
It makes sense. And that's kind of what I was expecting as well. So, yeah. I guess I want to try and tie it into tying the skills to real world work, but I want to preface it with all the information about that. So I guess I'll just move down the list here of at what or have you competed in other cybersecurity competitions, and can you give a brief rundown of them as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, competed in absolute tons of them. So NCL, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, the Hack the Box CTFs they do. Geez, the meta CTFs are a lot of fun. I've done the President's Cup. Uh, man, just all the time doing these challenges and learning things and how to present things, and it is so much fun to learn how to solve these problems, and they are so directly applicable to what we do as well, which is why I like doing it so much.
Just out of curiosity, too, have you been a code breaker solver?
Yep. Yeah, I've done that. I have not been able to solve the whole code breaker challenge though.
Yeah, that's quite the struggle. I've made a run at it at least 3 times now, so I
It's a
get
pretty
that.
intense competition.
Yeah. So I guess circling back to, and I think you kind of covered this with CTFs. What is your passion when it comes to cybersecurity, and kind of what makes you tick when you're getting into this?
Yeah, I really, really enjoy the technology and then also how we can apply it to solve problems, and especially things, like the penetration testing and really recovering from a breach. We're really helping organizations conduct business better. Um, a lot of people have no idea, what cyber is or how it works. So you show up showing on them all these things, and you basically look like a wizard, showing up how you could do all these things together. Um, Along with that, the mentorship has been a huge driver for me in particular. That has been one of the most important things that I've enjoyed the most through the U.S. Cyber Team and as a coach, is to help find people like yourself or other athletes, and mentor them, and guide them in the right ways to be very effective, not only at the competitions but also in their personal professional lives.
Yeah, I think that kind of covers too what makes you excited about US Cyber Games. So
Yes.
I guess that rolls kind of right into what are you hoping to see or looking forward to in season four? Like what makes you excited here?
Yeah, I am super excited to see how we continue to build on our experience through attack defense competitions, and then how that expertise can get relayed into further competitions to make us more effective at it.
And I guess for you use attack defense, but for those who don't know, can you give us an overview of what attack defense, red versus blue, that sort of thing is, and what that looks like in a competition?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, most CTFs are going to be that Jeopardy style, where you have a board of questions, and each question is worth so many points. Uh, so, most traditional CTFs are going to be that, where you click on a question, answer it, get points for it. Red versus blue in attack defense is different because it is entirely dynamic, where we are given either a set of systems or services that they have weaknesses in them, and we need to find our weaknesses while also figuring out how to exploit the weaknesses in the opponent's services as well. Everyone's given the same services too. So it is very dynamic in the sense of there's more than one way to solve these problems. Their teams are actually, attacking each other. It's not just trying to figure out a problem on a scoreboard. So that makes it all sorts of different, exciting as well, on top of everything else.
Cool, cool. And so you mentioned like building out some of these teams and doing all the coaching bits and circling on that. What kind of skills are you looking for in building an RVB team, attack defense team for the competition when you're pulling people in?
Yeah, in particular, we're looking for a lot of uh, very specific skills in things like blocking network attacks, and also allowing good traffic through, as well as looking for ways to quickly triage and analyze static code, and looking for vulnerabilities in that static code analysis as well.
And then follow on to that, I suppose, is what kind of skills are you training for in the team? Like, what are your gaps that are being worked on so that other people coming in know kind of what they should work on as well?
Yeah. So the static code analysis has been one of my favorite things to train on. Um, and when we did the camp in February, we actually worked on some live systems, like some actual real world code that's available for people to download. And I think we got something like 3 or 4 CVEs out of that work in particular. So future camps that we're doing, I'm going to be gathering way more actual real world services that we can analyze and then submit probably dozens of CVEs at the camp in particular.
Sounds exciting. And you say CVEs, and I understand what that means. But A, can you explain briefly what that is? And then following that, as well as a separate thought of like, how can you tie these skills to real world work? Like, again, finding CVEs is real world, but how does this all tie in?
Yeah. Yeah. So a CVE is listed by MITRE. And what they do is it helps track specific vulnerabilities and known weaknesses in either software or hardware for a computer system. And they're important too, because certain versions of Windows or a web application, or something you buy off the shelf, it could have a weakness in there that is known how to be exploited. Um, and so what we do is we find these vulnerabilities, report them to the manufacturer. The manufacturer will create a patch to remediate the vulnerability, and then they'll publish saying, "Hey, we found this vulnerability. It affected this specific version of the product. If you upgrade to this latest version of the product, then you won't suffer from that vulnerability." And MITRE tracks all of the CVEs that are issued. There were something like 60,000 of them in 2023 alone. And what's really interesting too is that the CVEs, they're all previously unknown vulnerabilities. So 0 days where nobody knew that that specific weakness affected that affected component. So when we say that we find CVEs, that means that we're finding vulnerabilities that nobody else identified. And then we can take credit for it too, which plays in very well into, tying it into world work, tying it into a resume. Um, because being able to say, hey, I found these vulnerabilities nobody else found, and then also worked with the company to get them resolved and published, goes a very long way for individuals that are getting started in cyber and trying to look for getting hired. So any CVEs I see on a resume immediately stick out to me in particular. And a lot of the resumes that come across have no CVEs at all.
And I guess in general too, skills that you learn through US cyber games definitely apply to real world skills as well. It's all transferable.
Yep, it is unbelievably applicable because doing the hands-on work proves that you're competent at what you do, and you can actually show here's exactly how I can solve these problems and prove I solve those problems.
And then one last thing that I'm adding to the list before I cut you loose here. What concerns you, but something you're hopeful about? So the example I give, and this is in the world of cybersecurity, is that I have concerns about our critical infrastructure, our power grids, our water networks, that sort of thing. But I know that we have people looking at it, and it's something that I have in mind doing this. So I'm kind of hopeful to see that this won't be a problem. What are things that might be concerning to you, but you have hope for?
Yeah, probably one of the biggest concerns I have are individuals that, you know, graduate a cyber program or something from a college or university, and they expect to be able to go directly into a cyber position. And, that kind of plays into a lot of all of this where there is a shortage in cyber individuals and also an oversaturation of entry level cyber. There's kind of a mix there where the problem is that there is a shortage of competent and qualified cyber analysts. And most of the programs that, do have people graduate from entry level cyber are quite frankly not prepared to actually do hands on work. That's where something like CTFs really come in. And the first time someone does a CTF and they understand, like, this isn't just theory. I have to actually apply what I'm doing. And I have to be able to apply it to a new situation, a new problem I've never seen before. That is those are the skills that you can actually market yourself with. Everybody needs that baseline foundation, the education on how these systems work and how they're designed. But if you can only do theory, you can really only go so far. So having that ability to actually do the hands-on practical stuff through CTFs, through Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, it is an unbelievably huge advantage for an individual when they're trying to get hired.
So I guess in a bit of a roundabout way too, to consolidate that, is that CTFs are leagues better than a boot camp that you might see on LinkedIn. Is the way I'm hearing that.
Right. I mean, I see the CTFs, and like I make sure to tell people to add them to their resumes too, because it shows, hey, I spend time working on this stuff, and here's my profile for that specific service or whatever. But it shows like, hey, I can actually do this stuff for real.
Makes sense to me, and I think that covers just about everything I wanted to hit. So, do you have any closing thoughts or anything? Or if not, I can give you a couple minutes back here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I really appreciate the interview. So this is always fun.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it.